So, Basil just issued you. It was understood that there are some rumblings about people maybe taking advantage of the fact that laws being loosened around the worship of other gods might be getting out of hand, especially from his perspective, since he wants to maintain his continuity of control and power in the community. So he agreed to that with Zaid, the Sakri paladin. Everyone was about to leave, including Coulter, who seemed to perk up as if remembering something. With a gasp, he informs the party that he has to leave. He has duties and things to take care of at the Academy of Natural Philosophy. So he quickly bids you goodbye, but promises that he will return when he can. So he departs, and this leaves the confessors, the soldiers, and Canon Basil to all watch. When the doors finally close, he turns around again. Is there anything else you might need? I believe I agreed to a confessor to join you. If this would suit you, he could keep track of any confessions you might require and render any assistance further if needed. I believe it was Confessor David in the other room.
Okay, then I would probably pull Zaid aside, not necessarily because I'm trying to block out the rest of our party, but because I don't see the need to state this openly to the confessor of, we can't necessarily reject this because he'll foist this guy upon us, but I'm sure we can go ahead and play it off as, well, you didn't want to give us an escort in here, we're not going to take your escort out. He can meet up with us whenever we're planning on leaving, and then that also gives us the option to ditch this confessor if we decide we don't want him.
You have the right of it, I believe. That was my thinking exactly, Zaid says in kind of a hushed tone. I believe I can handle this. And Zaid
Okay.
places pats a shoulder real quick as he steps forward, kind of playing off the interaction in hushed tones as if he was just being informed of what Basil had said so that he could step back from his exit. So I'd have Zaid step back forward in order to address Basil and kind of bow from the shoulders and inform him how appreciative we are for the accompaniment of the confessor that we had so dearly missed at our first arrival, and that in order to close the loop, that they ought meet us at the tavern that was disclosed for our initial meeting, that we may gather them on our departure from the city towards the suspect meeting place of these worshippers of the old ways.
He regards you with kind of a respectful nod, seemingly put aback by your gracious demeanor. He dips his head forward and says, I send his service to you, such as it is. He is in your charge now, and you should tell him this yourself. You are a man of rune. If man is the term you Sakri use, he's in your care. Oh yes, and I would wish for you to get this matter settled as quickly as possible. Earlier this morning, I was sent a petition. Can you believe the people of this town have the gall to ask me to allow that druid to preach openly? What am I supposed to do, defy laws of Runia? I think not, but they are clearly growing bold. I wish you all well.
Have I heard rumors of this druid already?
So you know his name is Jorah Greencloud, and you know
Right.
from the tailor that there might be some people seeking religious instruction and teachings from an illegal source outside of town.
I lean in and whisper into Zaid's ear that we need to get a copy of that petition. Since Zaid's the one currently doing the discussing, it doesn't seem proper for me to directly interject.
Zaid gives a nod over to his side and then begins backing away from the company of Basil and directing his companions to do as well, and says that in his parting words, I will speak with your attendants on matters of additional detail. I'm sure the canon must have an enormous amount of pressure dealing upon his brow as it is. May Rune bless you and this holy house.
Blessed as are we all. And his eyes kind of linger on the red orc like he was considering his own words for a moment, and then looks to you all in a single group and adds, there is a bowl for donations next to the door. Rune protect you. And before any objections could be issued forth, he turns around and pretends to be busy.
Before stepping out of the room, I stare at the back of Basil's head and back my way toward the party.
I would like to turn back and call Wolfrin in to speak quietly and ask if he'd be available to speak amongst the guards to see if they have any information about the movements of suspicious civilians that might have been party to the non-Runian worship around town.
I can do that.
When the doors swing open, a guard looks at Wolfrun, kind of gives you a once-over, and then squints at you. How long did it take?
What do you mean?
Training for Tedwin.
I'm still training in life. How long have you been standing guard at this monastery?
A year and a month. I've been trying to get with the Ted20 Rangers myself, but kind of an exclusive group. I never know who to ask.
I could perhaps put in a word for you.
Really? You do that?
Certainly. I need to know a few things, if you don't mind me asking a few questions.
What can I do for you?
I just need to know how attentive you are. As you know, the Rangers must have keen eyes and senses. Have you noticed anyone around here wearing the garb of the old ways of the old gods?
He stands up suddenly. Well, there are rumors that you hear, of course, especially those in the dissatisfied and disgruntled members of the temple here. But they say that the miller, the stonemason, a few others might be acolytes to some the old ways, I think people say. But you were talking about clothing? What do you mean exactly?
Any kind of similar clothing. They might have been wearing certain earth tones, not unlike my armor to a degree, but maybe more cloth.
So he thinks for a minute, rubbing his cleanly shaven chin and looking over the horizon. Yeah, you know that miller, what was his name? I don't know the miller's name, but Albert, the Toric family. The farmers, sheep, wine, they appear that way, but that could just be their farmer garb. Amon Keld, the stonemason, I've seen him wandering around with leaf prints on his clothes. And of course there's the Bluebills, which you know as the people who run the general goods store.
Interesting. And any other disgruntled members of the followers here that stand out to you that maybe don't wear similar garb?
Disgruntled in, well, I mean all the nobility, and especially the new canon. There is one person in town. You ever seen that potion seller? I don't even know if that's the right term for it. He sells all these concoctions. Medicine Man, kind of near the statue of the dragon in the middle of town.
Yes, I do think I might know of who you speak.
He wears green, looks foreign though. He dresses strangely. He's always got that shifty eye. Rubs me the wrong way. But I get paid to stare at people, so Rune curse me if it's wrong to spread rumors. You will tell the Ted20 Rangers that my name is Eric, by the way. I'm a good candidate, right?
Of course I will. You've shown a great deal of insight. Thank you for that. And I will certainly put in a good word for you, Eric. Eric of, do you have a surname?
He winces. Spearman.
Eric Spearman.
If someone reluctantly volunteers that sort of surname, like of Avendrad or Spearman, they're like a commoner. Eric looks at the other guardsman, the older one, who's like rolling his eyes. It's probably not a good idea to spread rumors, but he seems impressed by your status as a Ted20 Ranger.
I'm going to turn to him. Do you have anything you'd like to add to his report, sir? I saw you giving us the eye. I'm sure even a veteran like you would be able to see even more than I would be able to perceive.
So he rubs his chin. He's a bit heavier than his friend, just by a few pounds, but you can tell in his face. Like what?
Just anything out of the ordinary. Perhaps people looking as though they might follow old ways. Your younger compatriot here told me of a few people in town seem to be acting suspiciously, perhaps.
He tongues one of his molars, maybe trying to fish out a piece of his lunch from between his teeth. The old ways? There's Spelgar, the Blue. Not many people heard of him. Have you?
That name doesn't quite ring a bell, but it seems oddly familiar yet.
He's the only man of Cord in town, as far as I reckon. Old ways usually means Sylvanas, tree lovers, but since Cord is allowed in town, people usually go to him for questions.
Let's see.
I reckon might be near the river.
We'll keep that in mind. Thank you very much for your information. I will tell the Tedwinny Rangers of both of you.
Well, don't go telling people we're spreading rumors. The town's big, but it's not that big.
Would never dream of it.
What's your name, anyway?
I am Wolfrun Hag.
Wolfrun. What sort of name is that? Don't look like an Arnos.
I'm from the north.
You're from Albius?
Maybe a little further north than that.
His brows raise. Strange accent for a Northman.
Have you been far north?
Can't say I have, but I've heard them talk like, fancy.
Perhaps they were just not from the same part of the north that I'm from. It's a large place.
He squints his eyes suspiciously at you and doesn't answer, as if indicating he wishes the conversation to stop.
I oblige him. Good day to you both.
Eric nods at you eagerly, being just out of earshot from the other one. So, that seems to have wrapped up things here, at least for now. Is there anything else you want to do here?
I think we're all ready to head out.
Yep.
So the main things that are kind of around here, like that big building to the east is the Horned Raven. And so the main things right now would be the Potion Merchant, and there's a billboard around as well. People seem to, it's like kind of late afternoon right now, and this kind of open cafe next to isn't really populated yet. So now this is the place to make a plan, basically.
We do need to go speak to the miller and the lumberer. What is it?
Stonemason.
The miller and the stonemason, that's right.
I know the stonemason's name.
Did we suspect the potion maker of being a worshiper of the old ways, or was it just because they were a foreigner?
I do.
We need to speak with the suspects on our list while we're here. Includes the miller, the stonemason, perhaps even the potion maker.
Indeed, the potion maker, as well as the Turek farmers and a family known as the Bluebills who run the general goods store. And I would like to talk to that Cord worshipper who lives down by the river.
Held is a man who might know many secrets, or at least things that are less obvious than what we might find in polite society. So I could always talk to him either before or after we talk to our suspects. I don't know whether it would be better to go in with potential information to pry out of them, or whether it would be after to go to them and confirm whether what they said is true.
I suppose the question is whether we should stay as a group or split up to cover more ground.
You hired me for protection. I'm not going too far.
She has a point. Perhaps we should go in pairs.
That sounds reasonable to me. Shall myself and Morgarage visit the potion maker, and then either of you can... Well, which of the individuals do you two believe that you would best be suited to seek out first?
The stonemason's name keeps coming up. I feel we should start with him.
I would agree. Let's start with the basics. If the stonemason is someone who continually comes up, then that is where we should start.
Let's return here once we've spoken to our individual charges, and then we can devise a plan on how to continue from there.
Agreed.
You two head over to the potion shop, which seems to be well established. The first thing that might strike you is the unlabeled potions arrayed before you. Now the man in front of you, that's the sort of outfit he's wearing. Kind of greens, golds, purples, kind of a strange foreign look. He has very carefully shaved the top part of his forehead, so he has a false receding hairline. The hair that he does have is completely white and is very clean. He even smells good. He kind of greets you with a knowing smile. Even as strange as your races are to Avendrad, he seems unsurprised.
Welcome, my lords. How may I help you? My name is Siegfried. Welcome to the people here call it a potion shop. What are you in the market for, my friends?
As soon as his voice hits my ears, I sigh with exasperation, roll my eyes, and start looking at the display on the table to sort of distract myself. I'm attempting to get handsy with the merchandise.
Every time you touch a vial or a flask, he stops it. He grinds his teeth, clenches his fists, but maintains his even smile.
Zaid will pipe up just a bit and comment, I see you wear the dress of a foreigner, perhaps. Is my companion here a fellow countryman of yours? I see you've taken a keen interest to her.
He laughs, and you notice that his teeth are strangely well-shaped. He laughs deeply. Oh, that is perfectly good and well, sir. Oh, Hilarious. Oh, you're serious? Oh, no, I am from Avandrad. My name is Siegfried, a pleasure to make your acquaintance. I am an alchemist, a scholar, a philosopher, I suppose. How may I heal you? What are you looking for? Perhaps an aphrodisiac? Perhaps, I do have a potion here that negates the need for sleep. I've just devised it. Yes. Speaking of, you can tell he's trying to change the subject quickly. What brings you here? I can't help but notice you've unfurled your banner. Quite a statement to make.
Well, I must say that I am seeking a cure for the ailment of ignorance rather than one of bodily affliction.
He quickly taps the stack of tied books on his desk and grins. This is your remedy, my friend?
Zaid will cock his head quizzically, much as other avians might at an interesting object, and just inquire as to the subjects of the tomes.
If it isn't the Book of Five Gates by Amrelik, the sage.
Do I have any familiarity with these tomes already?
I just sort of lift my head at the words of cure for ignorance as if it was actually something that could be real.
And as he unclasps it, it kind of looks like the book cover for the Neverending Story. It's like there's either snake or fish scales on it.
I humbly request a primer, if he would.
The Five Gates is, well, he looks over his shoulder at the church. It's a book concerning how to live. I will be honest with you, not even Cinder would sell it in his tower. It is banned by the church, or at least they would not house it in their library. It is of the old lore, as I understand it, just how to maintain discipline in your daily life. Completely secular, I assure you, my lord. He looks at your symbol on your shield.
Zaid's eyes would grow quite wide at this as he would look closely upon the tome and then over to his companion, and then ask whether there's been any interest from other parties in this tome.
I'm afraid I cannot divulge the interests of my, well, I don't want to start any rumors around town. You see, people come with all sorts of ailments. You understand? Perhaps if I knew you better, my lord, I might be able to speak on the matter more specifically. Maybe there is something you could do for me, actually. We might establish a working relationship if you're not interested in any of these potions.
I gruff and roll my shoulders and look towards Zaid. Is it very common for most shopkeepers in these lands to ask for favors when you try to give them business?
Not in my experience. Yet, I am curious as to what the nature of this request would be.
No, of course. I would just ask you to bring me back information on any old buildings you find in the woods around Avandrad. The county, of course. A few seem to be brave enough to wander into their domain. And while there are those who worship Sylvanas, who seem to love running around in the woods, I'm more interested in the history of Gorosad itself.
Might that book contain information on whereabout these particular buildings of interest may be? Who knows whether I might be spending an evening in some rundown tower that was nothing more than an old granary.
I'm afraid not. As I said, it's just a simple instruction manual on how to live a more disciplined life. Although you can tell that he touches his nose, his ears, and kind of looks both ways after he says that. I can't help but notice that you two are foreigners. I wonder where it is your travels have taken you recently. I'm curious to hear about the Abindu and the Black Mountains, perhaps. He looks at Margarash.
I return the look, but quite unfriendly. I just narrow my eyes into a leer and speak. What have you heard?
I've heard of strange things happening in these lands, especially in County Avon.
For one that doesn't wish to dabble in rumors, they seem to come to you quite often.
It's true, my ears are large, and I have developed a skill to listen well. I've heard of strange storms happening, mudslides, uncharacteristic of the current season, spring. People are talking, you understand. I've had to sell some interesting reagents and poultices to stave off colds and an imbalance of the humors to more people than last year. I'm curious about what's happening too. And to be blunt, well, what do you know?
Seeing as our interests in the particulars of these strange occurrences are also aligned, although perhaps for you it would benefit you financially for them to continue. I do not put such a negative view on your scruples to suggest as much, but I would wish us to establish our rapport sooner than later, so perhaps instead of me travailing around these lands and spending who knows how long finding old ruins, I can give you information on the ruins of the Snake Men that I have already patrolled quite frequently during my trials as a squire.
It was so obvious that even a distracted Margarash could notice a jarring flinch when he said snake men. I'm sorry, snake men.
While your kind among men may not see them as the true threat that my people know them as, they are a true menace. They did roam these lands, and ever were they to return, they would be a horrible scourge. It is my people's duty to ensure that return does not occur.
I am sure you're doing a stand-up job, my lord. I mean, look at you. You're such a glorious knight. You're protecting us from dragons and gargoyles and demons and snake men, as you put it. I trust that you are doing a good job, and I would help you in any way I could. And might I recommend some health poultices?
When is the last time you saw a snake man?
To be honest, I don't know what he's talking about. I suppose a scaly man? I would assume snakes live in the sun, so... Well, I don't get out of town much. I apologize, I wish I could be more help. I'm actually trying to study these ruins to find out more about it. Maybe the people at the Academy of Natural Philosophy might be able to help you more. I do have a potion for shedding skin, dry skin as well. A lotion, I believe it's called.
I visibly recoil.
Sides actually has some interest in the sleep tonic. The cute inquires to the price of that one.
Yes, it lasts for a single day, but you will not feel a racing of the heart, and you will not need sleep. But you must drink it all, every drop. The price is... He looks you both over... 10 gold.
I look over at Morvarosh. Well, I don't know about you, but I think that I've gotten all that I require from this interaction. Unless you need anything further, I believe we will return if we find aught of these ruins that you have such interest in.
If you could bring back any sort of proof or a detailed map, I would pay you a few copper coins for that. That would help me out a great deal.
The information would be payment enough. Try to say that in as much derision over being offered such an amount for his time as possible.
Yes, I sent one old man in black clothing, a Vormire of black something, some sort of professional explorer into the woods 3 days ago. I have not heard from him since. It is a dangerous time, my friend. Don't believe the rumors about peace in the woods, especially to the north.
I visibly tense and make it a point to set my hand on the table in front of us, and I lean in towards the man.
He steps back.
Whatever you've heard about, as you said, the Abyindu, the Black Mountains, imagine it to be true. These aren't questions you should just go around asking anyone. There are more dangerous things than you've heard. Just to get him to back off a little bit.
He makes a show of taking a large step back, and you can tell that it's a little bit too performative. Oh, I'm quite aware what lies in the wilds. He responds evenly.
I release the table and take a step back.
I would wonder, you are half of the orc race, are you not? I cannot help but notice the blood-red color of your flesh. How curious is that?
If you want to know more, there's some very pleasant people waiting for you just over there. Referring to the Arachnian spiders that were in there when we were in there, and I'm sure they'll tell you all about it.
He makes a gross face, a twisted sort of expression. Oh, I see. Very well.
I think that just about signals our time to depart. So Zaid's going to turn about and quietly lean over to Morgarash and nod to the Arachnian spider. Morgarash, I'm going to grab a table near where we were to meet our companions when they are finished. Perhaps in the interim you can reach out and see if you can find any information from that Arachnian over there. Since you've had dealings with them in the past, you seem to be able to hold yourself up quite well.
I grimace and sort of halfway look over my shoulder before looking back at Saeed. Is this part of my contract?
Do you not feel capable?
I let my shoulders sink and swallow a bit of pride, and while I just keep to myself that this is a terrible idea, but I nod.
I'll pat a hand on your shield and say, if you have any trouble, send them over to me. I'll be watching quietly, and I'll head over to the far table.
Boop-a-doop-a-doop. All right. You arrive at Armin Keld's stone-cutting emporium. You can hear a tapping from the inside, and indeed, upon closer inspection, you notice that there is beautiful carvings etched into the door in front of you. Mostly leaves and trees. There's murmuring coming from muffled behind the door.
Shall we go in? This is pretty obvious. This may be someone we wish to talk to.
Yes, let us go ahead and go in, and then I lead the way. How do I open the doors?
I do it.
Thank y'all.
It closes. There is a workshop in front of you. You notice two stations that aren't being manned. They look exactly like the one the elderly artisan is working at. He turns around from his current job. He just stopped mumbling to himself. He had a big, bushy white beard, pale skin, curly hair, but it's balding on top. What can I do you for? He squints, trying to recognize both of you, but can't seem to. Welcome to my shop. I'm sorry, I was just working on a commission. He was working on a giant slab. What are you here for?
We're looking for information.
His bushy eyebrows bounce, and he wrings his hands nervously.
No reason to be nervous.
He smiles at you warmly, although his tense mannerism remains.
I try to kind of look him in the eye reassuringly.
I look at him and say, we're not trying to learn anything suspect, just the goings-on of every day, the flowing of the rivers, for example.
His eyes start to shift, and though he is being reassured time and time again, he has an anxious mannerism that seems to grow.
Can I look around the room and see if I notice anything that might be causing him anxiety?
He's looking mostly at the exits and the windows. There is a note, and you can see with your elvish eyes something about we'll be back later, going to something something. At your searching glances, his eyebrows arc in a worried fashion. Are you looking for a headstone? He shakes his head. I not that I mean to threaten you, but that's usually what people order from me.
I laugh and say, no. I was curious, whose commission are you working on, if you don't mind me asking?
He kind of looks at your clothing and squints his eyes. I think we might have a few mutual acquaintances. There is a moment of hesitation as he looks between you two. How do you two know each other?
We're part of the same retinue.
I turn away from him, walking to look closer at the suit of armor.
I think we should talk in here. My back room, I think. Prying ears might not hear so well.
That would be welcome. Thank you, sir.
He waits for you two to go in first. He closes the door. There's no locking mechanism behind him. But even so, he lowers his voice. I assume Keld sent you? What's this about?
We've been asked to find more of us. We're kind of hiding in plain sight, if you will. What do you know of Jorah?
Well, I know he's the man of the wood, as they say. He's teaching the gods truth.
And have you met with him?
Of course. I am one of the few who has been allowed to meet with him. I can tell you, devout. I got an eye for people.
Just not from this area, and I haven't spoken to a druid in quite some time.
But you come across as a man of the land. Or are you an outsider?
I'm not of this particular area, but I am of the land.
Well, are you an outlaw?
It depends upon which law.
The law of the forest.
No.
Good man. All right. You want to meet Jorah, then?
I believe that would be in our best interest, yes.
I can teach you the passphrase. What's your friend's angle?
You'd have to ask him.
How do you know Keld?
We fish in the same stream. I'm largely looking for a new set of lures.
Ah, you're a more experienced fisherman than I ever thought. Even in a closed room, you keep your line handy.
So who would I talk to about the best places to fish out in the wild? Unless you might know of a particular place where the catch is bountiful. Are there any places that are biting in town?
The man leans in conspiratoriously. There's more fish in this river than you could ever have possibly imagined. That potion cellar, the friggin' temple, the castle, even upstairs in the Horned Raven. Most Arnos men carry their fish with them. Most Runian men salt their fish. But about this meeting you want, you must make the sound of a horned owl at dusk. Go west into the forest across the river. You'll see a clearing with the headstones I'm working on. And by headstones, I mean that pillar of stone. You see that pillar? Make the sound at a certain time. He'll appear. If he disappears, I'll have to toe killed. I'm sorry.
I'll take that under advisement.
What's your name, anyhow?
Wolfrun.
Wolfrun. He looks, nostalgic. Now that's a name. That's a good old name. Listen. He opens the door behind him and walks out. I'm compiling these scripts. He goes to one of the empty workbenches, picks up some vellum, hands something to you. You see any ruins with these scripts on them, etched into the stone? I'd pay for some rubbings.
I can do that. It'd be a pleasure.
Seems to be important to our mutual friend.
I'll take the vellum.
He kind of lowers his voice, but he doesn't lower his voice enough so that Nolame can't hear him. Where did you meet this friend of yours?
Only just now in the tavern.
I haven't seen an elf here in 20 years. Be careful.
I'm aware.
You are also standing on a hoard of stored goods.
I mean, if this guy knows Keld, I'm not gonna steal from this guy though. Like, you don't go ahead and steal from the master angler.
He looks at both of you and asks if either of you want anything from his shop.
I have need of little.
I hand him a gold piece and say, "You've given me all that I need. Thank you for your time."
We should go catch up with the rest of our friends.
I agree.
Alrighty. So as Margarash walks over to the Arachnean spider, your friends enter into earshot. He looks up from the table. He isn't exactly annoyed at your presence, and the fact that he didn't have an outward reaction speaks to the fact that he might have seen you before somehow, but this doesn't seem to be one of the Arachnean spiders that was in the Horned Raven. He must have been told of your presence.
Approaching the table, I set my equipment down and I pull out a stool and I sit directly across from the Arachnean spider and try to make it look like I'm making eye contact. I'm actually just staring through them, maybe unfocused on their nose. And I try my hardest to strike up a conversation with a small hello.
He pushes back his hood to reveal a bald head, clean shaven this morning. Hello there. Not too often I see a half-breed so far from home. What brings you around here? You trying to join the Arachnean spiders?
I tilt my head, curious at the offer, and even ask him, is that a serious offer?
He nods, trying to stifle a chuckle. Of course it is. The Arachnean spiders are recruiting everyone across the land. How long you survive in the barracks, though, in the wagon train, that's up to you.
I interject. Does Nolame see this?
Yeah, you're all in earshot.
All right. As that conversation's going on, I'm just gonna walk up. I'm not saying anything yet, but I am making my way over.
He notices the movement and kind of stiffens a bit. The break of his eye line draws his attention to Wolfrun and Zaid as well, and towards the others around him. Suddenly, it seems, this man is very much aware of how many people with weapons are around him.
So Zaid is at least going to look away and pay attention to like some of the other shopkeepers or something, as if he doesn't really know what's going on.
I look back and forth between the spider and Nolame and look back towards the spider before straightening my posture. So you're here trying to recruit people. Maybe you've just found someone who's interested.
I interject, grinding my teeth at him, saying, as several other Arachnian spiders had already told us, they're not trying to recruit here. Either they had a problem with me as a half-elf, or they're for some reason lying to you. So which one is it, and why do you have a problem with one of us?
No offense, mate, but she's got 2 times more muscle than you ever could. But that's not here nor there. He looks at the Red Orc. He's right, though. We're picking up and leaving. Something big's happening near Ankarok. And this sort of thing usually doesn't happen. But I'm told to keep an eye out for enterprising adventurers like yourself along the way. Let me be frank with you, Orc. You'll be killed in your sleep after the first battle. We have history of our own with your kind. The fact that he wasn't drinking anything and wasn't slurring his words like the last party speaks to his convictions and true hatred.
We do, but I merely sat down for a talk. You told me something was happening in Ankarok. Is there
Aye.
anything else going wrong around Avandred?
There's some weird weather patterns and a weird lack of work around here. Unnatural amount of work. You wouldn't happen to know about that, would you?
Couldn't tell you.
That's what I thought. Story is, there's a gargantula spotted round near Ankarok. Now, as you know, these things are only native to Arachnia. The entire clans of 8 have been called to the Orient. He looks around and leans in closer, lowering his voice. Story is, they're not sure whether to kill it or not. I heard recently there's rumors that goblins are trying to tame it. Who knows, could be a giant distraction to, keep our eyes looking away. From what? I don't know. Would be another rebellion.
You don't have a high opinion of trying to capture it or tame it?
He scoffs at you and starts drawing his dirk into the table, writing his name presumably. Taming it? Don't be ridiculous. Some of the people think the goblins in the hills who want to tame it. If we don't kill it, it'll be a waste of time. Now tell me this. I've never seen an elf or even a half-elf travel with an orc or a half-orc, but brought you 2 together. I believe I might be the first man to ever see it in, well, the history of ever.
Fucks like you are the reason why me and her are actually traveling together. The reason why I'm traveling with my other companions are diverse, but the reason why I'm traveling with my companion here is because fucks like you go ahead and take a look at someone who doesn't necessarily have all the protections of the society that she's in, and can go ahead and just fuck with them. So, you're the reason why I'm traveling with her. You're the reason why I'm being shouting now in the middle of this town square, and you're the reason why I feel pretty confident that I can get away with this, because you don't have any of your friends here right now, and they're not going to do anything about it later.
This was a rare moment when the town wasn't full of guards, even though it was full of witnesses. He looks at your weapons and tongues the back of one of his molars, and then the side of his cheek. He couldn't hide his scowl. You want to meet me at the front of the gates at nightfall, or I don't want to see you in this town again. I don't care if I'm never coming back. We need to settle this like men. His upper lip was twitching.
He wants to go ahead and try and fight on more favorable terms. I spit in his face and say, you think I'm actually going to go ahead and wait to tell you you suck? Fuck you. Bring it. I mean, I've watched Margarosh look at everyone with a pretty intimidating look. Doesn't seem like she likes this person. I have a feeling that if it comes to a fight, it's probably not going to be just me. If it is just me, it is just me.
If it looks like they're about to come to blows right now, Zaid is going to rush forward and place his banner between the 2 of them.
Wolfrun, do you want to do anything?
Nah, Wolfrun's gonna hang out back here and watch this play out.
So Zaid is looking furiously at Noleme and raises his voice. The man has challenged you to a duel. You're not going to use numbers to your advantage when he's made such a challenge. Either accept or refuse, but retain your honor. You are reflecting upon me as my charge.
I mean, my blood's still up. So I look at Zaid and I say, of course, my patron. Assuming, of course, that you will be accompanying me to this duel to ensure that it is indeed an honorable duel.
That you would question whether I would do so wounds me.
You name the time and place, I'll be there.
I mean, I'm ready to fucking fight right now. Problem.
You'd let us choose.
I'm feeling sporty. I never killed an elf before. He spits on the ground.
I was going to suggest meeting at the forest northwest of Avondrad.
You could get there by nighttime.
And I was actually gonna say, as a time, cold hour before dawn.
He was reaching for his dirk to unsheath it, but then slams it back into place. Agreed. You better tie in your loose ends around here. You're never gonna be seen again in these parts. He attempts to leave.
Wait, before you go, before this duel, what is your name?
I'm Nigel the Bald.
Very well, Nigel the Bald. I just wanted to know what to tell a stonemason. You can go.
Out of my way. He tries to bump into everyone that he meets. There's a hubbub while he passes. A stool was knocked over.
I look around at the people that have gathered, including one off to the right that really looks like he enjoys colloidal silver. Does anyone else want a duel?
At that, most people turn away. People who look like they are the most out of town keep watching from a distance, including David, who has shown up at the restaurant's outdoor portion.
I gather my belongings, my axe, and carry my shield, and I walk over to Nolame and I just give him a sort of, like a gentle punch in the shoulder, just an acknowledgement, and like an empathetic tap.
Well, if anyone has anything to add, I clearly have a duel to prepare for, and say, obviously, Zaid, this was a breach of our contract. In full recompense, I would like to offer both a guarantee of the contracted funds back to you, as well as the duration of time that I would have remained in your service. If you need anything of me, that is mine to offer you.
Zaid will hold up a palm. He sighs, not disappointedly, but so he wasn't expecting you to catch yourself in a cooler position so quickly. Oh, keep it. Just remember that you were brought on for your services as a diplomat. Try to keep to that, will you?
David approaches the group. I happen to know local law. Hello, I kind of saw what happened. I didn't exactly hear it, but perhaps I could help. Well, this will be outside of the town, but perhaps your friend, who I understand is a woodsman, might be able to guide us towards a favorable location. I believe a champion is owed to noblemen, but even still, I doubt Arachnia knows so well or are so versed in Runian law that they would not begrudge you deferring to another.
Noleme is of age. I believe that they're quite capable of defending themselves and ensuring that their honor is maintained.
Nolame looks at both Zaid and Margarash and says, my friends, I hate to ask you to...
I hold up my hand to interject, and I say to Nolame, like the man said, we have a history. I think you will be fine in this challenge.
I'm going to need some time to prepare. I will see you all at the front gate at sunset if you are still interested in accompanying me. And then I walk to the north.
David looks concerned and looks towards Wolfrun. Might there be perhaps a place we could stage your friend?
I do know this area a little bit. Well, that would be an understatement. I could certainly take us up through there. Let me scout ahead a little bit, and I'll let you know what I can find.
David seems to nod in agreement. Margarash, David doesn't seem to be able to meet your eyes or acknowledge you.
I look at David, and I just simply speak, look at me.
He does so instantly, but you can see that there's a hesitation. A look becomes a stare.
What makes that so difficult?
He blurts out, "Oh, it's not difficult." He moves his hands erratically to unclasp a brand new book and a metal casing holding a perfectly made brand new quill and an inkwell. I was wanting to ask if your friend had any confessions he wanted to make before tonight.
You believe he's going to die?
Oh, yes.
I pace around the table and step closer to David.
He backs up into the table.
Why do you think he's going to die?
I don't know this man, but I do know Arachnian spiders. They're dangerous. And if there's one Arachnian spider, there's always 7 more.
Well, I cannot speak to Nolame's confessions or how he fights or carries himself. I've seen him in conversation, and I will tell you he is more of a stand-up fellow than you.
More stand-up than me. I am a man of rune. He might have the good looks of a charmer, but who is he really to you?
For the time being, he's an ally, and an ally of those 2 behind you.
Zaid's going to just quickly whisper over to Wolfrin that if it really are true that there are 7 Arachnian spiders for every 1 seen, him scouting ahead is probably going to be a lot more valuable than he might have assumed.
I just kind of tap my temple next to my eyes.
We are going to need to speak about what you and Nolame learned while you were at the stonemasons, however. This I'm going to keep more in a hushed tone. I'm going to try and circle the conversation back to somewhere that is less confrontational towards David, just because I want him as much on our side as possible.
I'm not trying to threaten David. It's more like a lesson that the smallest things, a look, a gesture, a comment, are enough to incite what he just bore witness to. And I look David over, just sort of trying to gauge his build, whether he looks like a fighter or not.
You could train him to be a fighter. He's healthy.
And while I don't know much about you, David, I don't know how you would react if...
If what? If you... Look, I'm just trying to write down your confessions. I am a man of God.
You are a man of your God, and that might offend someone else. Someone else might come along and challenge you to a duel one day. What confessions will you have to make?
My confessions are public.
His might not be. And I leave it at that. And I want to actually walk back over to the potion cellar.
I was going to try and stop Morgarash before
Okay.
until Wolfram gave us the down low on what happened with him.
I can walk back now.
And David gets a drink.
I have some idea that there may be something in the forest to the west, but I'm not exactly sure where. It seems though that I should probably be heading north soon before the Arachnian spider can summon more of his friends.
What's in the west? What did you learn of the stonemason? Does he have any connections to the worshippers of the old ways?
He seems to, yes.
Well, how did you glean this?
Just some subtle questioning. We didn't want to shake him down or scare him so that he would alert his friends.
He has friends. Do you know who they are? Are they in town?
I have a list of names. Don't you
this?
think it's more important that we attend to our friend first?
Well, I want to make sure that I've got my head on a swivel while we traverse the town if there's any individuals who might be watching in after us. Who knows if they're gonna take this duel, if someone overheard it happening and its location being set, if they're gonna tag along or try to follow us and use it as some kind of opportunity.
Well, I mean, identifying them right now isn't going to stop anyone else from arriving in the north.
But I just might have a better idea of who to keep my eye on who might be trailing us.
Well, like I said, we can check with the Bluebills. You can check with the Torek family. They might also be worshippers of the old ways. You talked with the potion seller. What did he have to say?
He was quite evasive. Do you bring him up because the stonemason mentioned him?
No, I just wanted to know what he had to say.
Well, he has a book that seems to involve something along the lines of practice of perhaps the old ways. I couldn't glean out of him any information about clientele that might be interested in it. He might have some connection, but I can't be sure.
Like I said in the cathedral or monastery, it seems to me that there may be more of them than anyone here really could imagine. It's almost like it's an underlying current throughout the city.
That's far worse than I was fearing. Canon Basil is probably going to be in way over his head.
I can't believe that he wouldn't have any intelligence on this.
Well, he's dealing with a new position. He's already made enemies.
If you want to go question some more of the people around town and see if you can kind of head it off at the pass, by all means, but I do think I'd serve better in the north now.
Agreed. I'll meet up with you there as soon as I can.
Excellent. I'll see you there.
Morgarash, you are greeted with upraised eyebrows, and you notice for the first time that Siegfried seems to have an assistant behind him who seems to be transporting and restocking strange liquids. He greets you with a bow of the head. I couldn't help but notice some sort of unpleasantness in the distance over yonder. Are you all right?
I am perfectly fine. As a matter of fact, I was wondering if you could help me with something.
Oh, of course, I am here for you.
Would you say favors for favors?
I'm listening.
You see, I plan on going on a hunting trip soon, and I briefly pull out a small makings of a hunting trap from my bag. And I'm not too sure this can do the job, so I need a bit of, what's the word? I'm asking you, what's the word? I need poison. I don't know how people can dance around these words.
I'm afraid it's going to be 20 gold for 2 vials, and I will sell you 4 vials for 40 gold. And what you're going to do for me is take this vial, and he takes a geometric-looking green vial that's quite large, and you're going to give it to a member of the nobility and tell him it's a healing tonic. Or you can take this book and read its entire contents and tell them back to me.
So you don't know what's in the book?
Of course, I've memorized it by heart, but I'm wanting to spread the knowledge, of course. It might be a subject interest of your study. It's called The 5 Gates of the Soul. It's the exact same book he was pushing before.
I'll read you the book, should my charge give me that spare time.
He clicks his tongue. Oh, I'm afraid this must be a matter of absolute secrecy, and you're not reading me the book. You're reading it yourself and telling me its contents so I know you've read it for sure. You understand?
Fine.
Well, if you do actually wish to make all that money, this green vial will be waiting for you. Take this copy of the book for now. Tell no one.
I place the book in my bag for now, and I begin counting out gold coins, and I am about 9 short of 40, so...
Do you want to negotiate?
I will take what you offered. I think I will only need 10 gold's worth.
Tell you what, I'll give it to you for free. If you take both of my tasks, give this green vial to a noble, tell him it's for a healing tonic, and everything should be fine.
Narrow my eyes and stare at him. I stare into the contents of my coin purse and pocket it once more, and I just let my shoulders sag and I relent. Give me the green vial. Which noble am I supposed to give this to?
I'll tell you what, you give this vial of healing potion, he smiles to himself, and the highest noble you find, the more I will pay you afterwards. This I so swear, and my word is the best in town.
Alright, and I pocket everything and I just look back at him. Are we finished?
No, I don't believe we are. I would know your name again for the record.
Margorosh.
Margorosh, I swear to every god and every devil, if you betray me, it will not go well for you.
I take a single step back, and part of me wants to smile, and I look back at him. You know, I feel like beyond the people I'm traveling with, that might have been the most honest thing anyone has told me in this town so far.
He smiles at you again. We will talk much, if you survive. I will see you again soon, Margorosh. Good day.
And I slowly turn around, breaking eye contact until, like, you know, I physically can't make it anymore.
Margorosh returns to you. Wolfrun is gone. David is trying to give you space. He's at the restaurant, though, behind you. Nolami is preparing for the duel. It is time now to do any last things you wish to before the fight.
All right, I'm gonna stand up from the table and like start walking south to like stand next to the bulletin boards a little bit so that he can look like he's doing something while like kind of muttering to Morgorosh.
There's a man with an alien complexion staring at you with fine clothes and strange artifacts, and a Goliath who is strangely bare with a silver crown upon his head, using an ornate sword as a walking stick to lean upon. They're staring at you.
I lean over to Morgorosh and say, "We'll need to talk about that soon." And then kind of perk up a bit while pretending to peruse the message board and turn my head over to the two colorful individuals. Oh, why, hello there. I don't believe I've seen your lots before. Quite a tall individual and one of quite absolutely precious coloring. I must say you would have the Sakurai nobility quite flustered in jealousy. Many of us paint our beaks with precious stones after grinding them to a fine powder, but I do not think any would be so bold as to paint every inch of themselves.
The Goliath looks down on you, the first man to do so in many a year.
Behind his back, I wrinkle my nose and look at myself self-consciously at the words of precious color.
Why, yes, says the Goliath. We were just traveling through, passing by. We will not trouble you. Do not worry.
Oh, it is no trouble at all. You quite pique my curiosity. Where would you hail from, Sir Goliath?
Oh, why? I am the king of Foxbrin. My name is Oro. This is my friend. And then his friend interjects and says, Noros Arkenfinder, a pleasure. But yes, we've overheard your encounter. I wish you well, sir.
I don't suppose either of you are familiar with anyone in this town who might know a thing or two about alchemy other than this potion seller here.
Ah, says the Goliath. If only you knew my friend, Kender. Quite the alchemist he is indeed. Though I hear there's a potion merchant nearby. I am something of an alchemist myself, says Noros.
His tufted ears would perk up a bit at this, and he would look back to Morgarash, and he'll mutter the green vial, and then usher Morgarash to come with him and the other two a bit around the corner of the fountain to be somewhat out of eyeshot from the potion seller.
They look at you dubiously, unwilling to move at first.
I indicate for Morgarash to produce the poison.
I reach one arm into my bag and look off, trying to appear unassuming, like I'm distracted by other means, but the other hand is flashing the green vial that was given to me prior.
May I, says Noros.
If you're discreet, my life could be on the line.
He accepts the potion but is not discreet, and uncorks it, wafting the scent under his nose. I see. It is a potion from the king's root, which would kill you in, just in a 16th of an hour, I would estimate. He then recorks it, although there is an after scent that I am unfamiliar with, and then he offers it back to you.
I take it back and place it back in my bag.
Can I ask what brought you and your companions to this locale?
I look to Zaid and I sort of nod my head north. We are going to be possibly late for a prior engagement.
Indeed. Perhaps we could meet at Lord Cinder's tower. I believe you're aware of this Earl, or Thane?
That sounds most agreeable to me. I'm sure we will have much to catch up on.
Very well. It is not often I run into the likes of Arachnian Orc, or a Sakurai. My name is Noros, by the way, Noros Arkenfinder. It is a pleasure to meet your acquaintance.
Can I run a history check?
He's a famous explorer from the south.
How famous would I know?
Like maybe you've heard the orcs tell a story about some freak, and Zaid, you're like, this is a respectable dude worthy of note.
Ah, we used to pass tales about someone like you.
He smiles with subdued amusement and palms the crystal ball that tops his staff. How amusing. I would like to talk to you more about that if I can. I'm curious about your people as well, and I've heard about the Gorgon. I wonder if you have any more information about that. And
It's just a rumor.
to which Uro says, we don't have time for that. We should focus on the here and now, my friend. Ah, yes. We are here for a purpose, but that can wait. We will see you tomorrow.
Farewell to you. We will be on our way. Was there anything that I happened to see on the notice board while I was perusing through it?
There is. I conveniently wrote a list down if you would like to take note as you leave. So on the notice board is what appears to be written on a royal parchment with all the trappings and bells and whistles. A missing girl, described as the most beautiful girl in town, with an illustration, blonde of hair, youthful in features, but unable to hear. There is a warning not to travel north. Speaks about dangers and a ghost in the forest and orcs and monsters. There's a warning to bring guards and help through gas. It's like, now hear this, you are warned and cautioned against traveling through the forest of Epindu alone. It is a dangerous place. You will do well to hire a Raccoon spider or an adventuring party to protect you. There is a note, another royal kind of note, that is inviting people to accept a special task from the Count himself. It would appear that Calm Hall Castle in the Far East is in danger of losing men enough to man itself, and they're looking for adventurers to trek the dangerous journey there to help protect the borderlands. There's another note in a strange kind of calligraphic text stating that a man named Mach Vola Akros wants an escort to Belmead. It appears he's a traitor. And that's it.
Alrighty. Well, I think we're going to be heading up to the dueling point